All right, I'm on another creative walk. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day temperature-wise. 76 degrees. And you can see this journey today, it's real. It's absolutely real. This is what I call my creative walks. My creative walks, more often than not, most of them are long walks that I take on a trip just by walking. And we talk about a creative subject. So today's creative subject is focus. Focus, focus, focus. And you could think of, oh, somebody's unhappy. Little dog got a little upset because I was a little near his property maybe, right? There you go, talk about focus, right? See how things like that can actually just break your attention span? But that was something that was loud enough to pop out of nowhere, right? So the F in focus is that you have to find it. So we have to train the brain to anchor your attention on a clear, specific goal. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you guys and gals, the secret. At the end of this walking trip, you're going to get the secret to improving your attention span by 100%, and then it scientifically works. It works 100%. Scientifically, it works for the brain, but it requires the effort. So if you think that you're going to get results without putting any effort in, I would say click off this video and find another video, because you have to do the work. That's the realization. You have to do the actual work. So what science actually tells us, because I happen to be a neuroscience buff, you can say I'm not a neuroscientist, but I have a deep interest in it. It shows us that our brain performs best when it has a clear target to minimize all the distractions. So the O in focus is that you have to outline stuff, right? You have to be able to outline things, create an outline. Create a structured container for your thoughts. It's just an outline. So many people are opposed to using actual pen and paper that we've gotten so used to using technology now that we don't want to use a pen and a paper anymore. That's the interesting part with it. So let's have some fun. What do we outline? Well, you outline all of those specific things that you have to take care of. All right, why is this important? Because when you create a structure, it reduces what we call cognitive load in the brain. So it helps your brain organize and reorganize the information better by chunking things down. You have to understand that people that are overwhelmed, it goes back to the concept of, like, if you ever heard people say that's TMI, too much information. And that's what we're experiencing in society now, is that the overusage of social media, the overusage of the internet and the knowledge, the information age that we're in, is that we're getting cognitive load. We're getting too much, information, TMI. And the brain's not used to that. Our brains are really not used to, we weren't really designed for this. That's what it is. You know, some people may say, oh, you have to give human beings more credit. I give human beings more credit. I do. In terms of intelligence, I give them more credit. In terms of emotional intelligence, there's more to be seen. There's more to be understood about that. So when you are outlining what you have to do, that's the O in focus, it helps you reduce the cognitive load. And that leads us over to the C, which is to choose and categorize. You have to be able to choose, you have to be able to categorize things. Label things. Label your tasks, maybe even label your feelings. Label your priorities. Start to prioritize things. The Eisenhower matrix is a good tool. It's not the only tool, and it's not the secret sauce for focus. I'm going to give you the secret sauce for focus at the end of this video. So you're going to want to stay tuned all the way through. This is not a matter of fast forwarding, because you're going to lose all those nuggets of information. But we're on the choose and categorize. So categorization is important. Why though? Why do we give a shit? Why do we care? Because it's how the brain actually groups related information for more efficient processing. Now, I've used a lot of mind maps, and they've changed my life. The mind map has changed my life dramatically. Let me give you a quick example. I had to move out of a house, not an apartment, not a condo. I had to move out of a house, and I had to move in 1 week. I had 1 week to do it, and the house was full of furniture. The house was full of stuff. And I created a mind map of the whole house, and I created a mind map of each room and what each room actually contained. And I put it on a marking whiteboard that I had on the wall because I wanted to see it visually. And there were things that had to go. There were things that had to be thrown out. There were things that had to be moved. There's things that were important. There were things that were not important. And what happened was I was able to move the whole house in 1 week. It's all one floor, mind you. I had a basement too, but whole house. Furniture, everything. And I had to get out of there by the end of the week, and I had to make it spotless clean too. That was another thing. So I was literally able to get everything out by Thursday, and by Friday I spent the whole day cleaning, just cleaning it to make sure it was beautiful, that when I left, it looked beautiful. The house looked beautiful. So the mind map as a tool, it's underrated, it's underutilized, it's misunderstood. Some people don't know how to do it. Maybe I'll do a separate video on just how to do one, probably will. And the mind map can change your entire life. Can change your entire life. It really does a great job of integrating your creative side of your brain along with the logical side of your brain. So when you are choosing and categorizing, you can use a mind map to actually do that. Or it could just be little check boxes next to the things. Or you could put numbers. That's another thing. You could put like number one, this is number one, this has got to go. And you got to sit there and think about it. You got to sit there and, draw the line between the priorities of things. Now, the U in focus is to unload your mind. Like you have to brain dump quickly. Take all the information that's in your head and literally dump it into each section. You got to clear that mental clutter. You got to clear all that mental clutter and you got to dump it. You have to be able to externalize thoughts, which are going to free up the memory. It's very important to actually free up what's in your mind. The whole point of brain dumping is to release everything. You're getting rid of that external clutter, which, by the way, by getting rid of that external clutter, you start to feel less overwhelmed. And that's the whole point. You want to feel less overwhelmed with that. Okay? So this reduces overwhelm when you take your thoughts, you externalize them, you unload everything. And when you have those categories, you can unload those information that you have into those categories, which is good. That's kind of the whole point. You create categorization as like little sections, segments that store information, right? For example, for me, doing the mind map, I had the kitchen. The kitchen was one category, one area, right? So I had to brain dump on that list, like all the things in the kitchen that have to go. And what I discovered was each part of the house, some parts of the house versus others, was going to be easier to move. That's what I discovered. So I'm like, all right, well, let me move the hard stuff first, because the kitchen's not so bad. Some people will move the easy stuff first. I've found when you move the hard stuff first, then all the other stuff happen a whole lot faster. We'll stop here for a moment. Now, once you've brain dumped everything, you can start to do prioritization and start single tasking. With each section, you're going to turn it into a task. Because if you multitask, that harms your focus. But if you single task and you isolate, you increase your dopamine reward with each completion. So each section that you complete, you're going to feel rewarded about. That's the beauty. You see? So when you do that, your dopamine increases because you wind up checking things off on the list. Now, what we have to do is understand why this actually works scientifically. Why does this actually work? Well, the cognitive load theory, your brain has a limited amount of working memory. We think our brains are like this endless sponge. And quite honestly, when you go to sleep at night, your brain likes to purge. It's kind of like a computer cleaning the cache out of the computer. CACHE, cache. Not money cache, but cache files. Residue. What happens when you dream at night is your brain will info dump into the dream state. So you'll have a dream, and it'll be from stuff that happened that day, or maybe that week, or maybe anything you're stressing about, for that matter. So what we are trying to do is to chunk things down. It's so important to chunk things down. So you start to look at all the segments. In my case, it was different rooms in the house. Different rooms that are there, the kitchen, the living room, and you start to realize what's totally possible and what's totally flexible, what you can do. And what this did was it enhanced my memory. Having a mind map or a list, in a case a mind map is a list that you have to visually prioritize. What happened was I knew everything in my brain of what I needed to accomplish for this move. And I knew what had to come first, second, third. And it created a level of mandatoriness, if that's a word, as to what was mandatory had to come first, mandatory had to come second. So when I started completing all these different rooms of the house, I was very rewarded by dopamine, right? Just I was accomplishing one room at a time. I had to restore my attention by making sure I don't get distracted, like that dog we heard earlier. But that's sometimes the kind of distraction that's a little too loud and a little too noisy, one that you can turn your attention to, but you have to be able to turn your attention back. So you notice that when I heard that dog, I had to literally turn my attention back to the video because I have to stay focused on what I'm doing. You'll even find that YouTubers will get distracted and they'll stop and have 20-minute conversations with people, and some people find that to be interesting, and quite honestly, it can be, but I'm here to deliver information and value and to stay focused and to actually stay focused. So, your brain's attention span, the attention system, it craves clarity. And we have to limit distractions. So when you brain dump or info dump onto paper, it's a physical method to help you unload your mind. And when you're single tasking, you're going to have the power to literally define things, and it leads to better outcomes when you start to single task. You could multitask, but you need more than one person, right? We're talking if you're moving a house here. If you're moving furniture, you can't always lift a couch yourself. You need helping hands, right? So in that case, certain tasks require people to make them happen. So when you are single tasking, and there's a lot of power in single tasking, because mastery is about taking a single task and not being perfect, but mastering it. That's what mastery is all about. And the act of drawing and organizing your thoughts, whether it's on paper or in a mind map, it helps you engage your brain's cortex. So it makes focus both a mental and physical practice, which is really the most important thing that you can actually do. Now, I do want to share right here, right now, the secret sauce to increasing your focus. Okay? Increasing your focus. There's two things. The first one is concentration grids or focus grids. They're used in sports, they're used in football, they're used in a lot of different sports. And you can search for them on Google. You can search Google Images, you'll find them. And then you can even find PDFs of them, and you can download them and print them. And what a concentration grid is, it's a big box. It's a grid of numbers. And, you obviously have a number 1, and then you have like a number 75. So what you're going to do is all of these numbers are actually mixed up. They're not in any order. And what you have to do is circle 1, circle 2, circle 3, circle 4, and you got to go through and circle all of them. And part of that self-discipline is to sit all the way through it. And that's to improve your attention span, your focus, okay? So what you're going to do is you circle each number, and you're going to do it in that order with a concentration grid or a focus grid, okay? Now that's one method of doing it. All right, so what happened was my battery ran dead, and I want to share with you the science of repetition and focus, because that's where I left off. How to concentrate. What is the secret sauce to concentration and focus? There's a hidden secret, and it's literally in plain sight, and honestly, it's a method that's so simple that most people just completely overlook it, or they don't give a shit, or they don't believe in it, or they need some kind of brain science. They need some kind of productivity hack. But you know what? This is older than time immemorial, even before language itself, okay? When you are focusing repetitiously, there's a great deal of power in one word. When you repeat one word, not obsessively, this is not about building OCD, this is not compulsion, this is kind of deliberate. It's relative to like mantra chanting, the rhythmic repetition of a single word with awareness in your brain. And the science is finally catching up. It's catching up to what the sages have already taught in India, what they already knew. And quite honestly, times are changing, and we're going to talk about what actually happens in your brain when you repeat a particular word silently. You could say it out loud, but it doesn't have the same impact as if you say it silently over and over again. Whether it's peace, whether it's focus, whether it's stillness, even a sacred Sanskrit mantra like Om, whatever the case may be. This isn't wishful thinking. This is actually neuroscience focused programming at its best. And that's what I want to share, is that when you silently repeat a word in your mind, what happens is you engage a part of your brain, and part of that brain is literally called the default mode network, which is responsible for our attention span. And you start to quiet down that network of the brain. You quiet that down, that network of the brain that's responsible for the wandering thoughts. It's responsible for the daydreams. It's responsible for the mental clutter, the mental chatter that you're feeling inside your skull. And when you are concentrating on one word, just one word, you are literally pulling energy away from the noise that is directing you towards elsewhere. And when you repeat a word over and over again, you're tapping into the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And that's part of the brain that's responsible for attention, for your decision making, for your self-control. It's responsible for all those things. So you're not just repeating a word aimlessly, boringly. You are training your attention span. You are literally building up the mental muscle around the default mode network of your brain. And every repetition is a rep. It's like a rep in the gym, right? But it's in the gym of your mind. That's what that's all about. So the studies using fMRI scans, they actually show that like mantra repetition, whether it's a prayer or not, it's the activity that's in the anterior cingulate cortex. And that is literally a very important connection to the prefrontal cortex. It's essential to sustained focus. In fact, the research from a famous Norwegian University of Science, and of course technology, they have a technology background as well, they found that the mantra meditations or mantra chanting or concentrating on a particular word, it lowers activity in brain regions that are literally associated with self-talk. It's helping. And what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Well, it means that when you're repeating a word, it doesn't narrow you. It actually frees you. It frees you from all of that distraction, and it builds your focus. It clears the fog and shuts off the mental tabs in your brain, right? It brings all of your scattered energy into one collective channel, one point, one now, one moment. And that's what it's all about. So the power of one word is not in the word itself, although some people may think that. It is in your intention. It's in your presence. It's in your focus. It's in your discipline. It's to stay with it, to come back to it again and again and again. It's building that muscle. Your attention span is literally a muscle. And that's not obsession. That's concentration. That's mastery. That's self-mastery. So if you've ever struggled to focus in your mind jumps like a damn browser with 23 tabs open, then please try this. Try it. Just choose one word, whatever that word may be. One word that just resonates. Sit still, close your eyes, and repeat it over and over. If you can do sets of 20, do it 20 times and another set of 20, your brain will start like trying to pull the panic mode on you. They might say something like, oh, why are we doing this? What's the point? Like, that's what the brain will self-argue in about 5 seconds. But you're going to notice that the mind is going to wander to all these negative thinking, and that's not failure. That's literally your moment of return. And every return is another thread that you're building, another thread of rope in your attention span, in your focus. So the overall point I want to make is that it's just like a workout. And if you're asking yourself, why am I doing it? Is that you are working out your mind. And you'll either argue with the science to find a reason to not do it, because most people will argue for limitation, or you'll find it to be very transformational. And that's all I'm going to say. Feel free to like and subscribe and share. Have a great day.